Hello everyone, today I'd like to talk about an underrated diva. Actually, probably the more appropriate term would be overlooked diva. And when I mean diva, I'm talking about vocalists. Now, you always associate diva to a female artist. So I'm talking more from a vocalist standpoint. Today, when you mention divas, I think most people would think the current artist being Cardi, Megan, heck, even Nicki, and then the most current probably Glorilla. And they're divas in their own right, but I probably would categorize them as hip hop divas. I'm talking about more of the pop vocalist standpoint divas. And the term diva, I'm pretty sure came out in the 80s or 90s. I think the diva standpoint. And I keep thinking of, when I think of divas from the vocalist standpoint, and it would be in that era, 80s, 90s, maybe early 2000s, 5 female vocalists come to mind. And I'm not gonna kind of pigeon them into a specific music category like R&B. No, I'm just thinking 5 immediately that come out to mind. Now there could be other female vocalists within that era, or maybe a little bit later, that I could think of it as a diva, but these five always come to my mind. And of that 5, one of them is usually the one that no one really thinks about or considers, but I do. I'm going to name them right now. The first one, Whitney. The second one, Mariah. The third one, Celine. The fourth one, Sarah. If you don't know who Sarah probably needs the last name, and that would be Sarah Brightman. Okay, so those are the 4 of the 5 that I'm pretty sure if you ask anyone, maybe during that era, 90s, 2000s, who are divas, I'm pretty sure those 4 would come out. Maybe Sarah might not be known to a lot because she's really more into the musical opera type of category, but if people would know female vocalists around that time, in that era, they would know Sarah, and she would be it. She would be that diva. Okay, and the 5th one is the one I want to talk about, and it's the one I considered overlooked, and that would be Toni Braxton. Yes, Toni. Now, I want to really talk about her mainly because, not just being overlooked, but I think a lot of people have forgotten how damn good she was, especially her 90s stuff. And really, her 90s stuff is just 2 albums. This one, her first debut album, and Secrets, which I have, or had. I just can't find it right now, but I have both of them. And then my other 2 albums are currently of hers are basically her greatest hits. I don't know why I got this one. It's not that good, but this one definitely is the one to get. The ultimate Toni Braxton. So, to me, Toni Braxton was definitely a diva, especially in the 90s period. And again, 90s were, I think I'll put it 2 albums, her first one and Secrets. And both were absolutely amazing. If you notice, I have the album. If you know me from my earlier videos, you would know that I usually don't buy non-compilation albums. But this was one of the rare ones that I went ahead with because I remember listening it from a friend of mine, the whole album. It was so damn good. I mean, she's got the hits. Obviously, the hits. She has a bunch of hits from these first 2 albums, but it's not just the hits. I mean, the music all around on both albums. This one being more purely R&B, kind of. If I recall, it's people compared her when this first came out to like Anita Baker, and rightfully so. It has that vibe to it. How Anita sings, her music stylistically. This album is very familiar to, or it would sound familiar to any Anita Baker listener or fan. It's like that. Her second one, Secrets, is more has more variety. It has a lot more for everyone. It doesn't have to be an R&B. There's pop, more pop type. I mean, it's just great, and it has something for everyone. And it's not just the music alone. It's also her voice. Okay, when you listen to her voice, to me, she's almost. I put her up there with like the Mariahs, the Whitneys, no doubt about it. And if you want to kind of pigeonhole into the R&B category, for sure, I think she's second to none when compared to the Mariah and the Whitneys. From a voice standpoint, it's really angelic. You got to listen to her first two albums for sure. Listen to them. If you haven't heard Toni's voice, you got to listen to her first two albums, no doubt about it. And then I think you might come to a conclusion that it's up there for sure with Mariah Carey, with Whitney Houston, no doubt about it, in my opinion at least. So now, after these first two albums, to me, she kind of fell off the face of the earth. And I think that might be one of the reasons, if not the main reason, why she gets overlooked and, in the same token, being underrated as a diva, or at least one of the top tier female vocalists of her time. And I don't know why. I think there's a myriad of reasons, and I think all of them could be true. I do remember in the 90s still, I think after her second album, there was huge news that she was bankrupt or something like that. And she went on Oprah, the show, and something happened. I never saw the episode or anything. I just only heard, and it just looked bad. Like, she really looked bad on that show. I don't know if it's Oprah kind of making her look bad, or she's just Toni Braxton not answering questions appropriately. I don't know what, but it just, from what I understood at that time, she came out looking bad. Now, it's just an Oprah interview, whatever. I mean, I don't think a show like that, appearing on an episode that might make her look bad, especially if she's talking about bankruptcy, would ruin a career. But it kind of did. I don't know how to say so. Maybe not just the Oprah show alone, but ever since then, her third album and on was started from the 2000s. And for me, like, the third album would be Heat, right? And from there on out, I listened to Heat. I listened to her, I think, a couple other albums that followed, like Libra. They were really, like, not just meh, but really subpar for her, right? Now, I know Heat or Libra, there might have been albums that were gold status, but gold status for her, understand, is bad. Because her first two albums were, like, platinum for sure. I'm fairly certain they're platinum, if not diamond by now. So it's just a totally different level of output from Toni. And the thing is with Toni, I think 3/4 of her discography and non-compilation albums are from the 2000s on. So really, the first two, her debut and her Secrets album, were only the ones from the 90s. And from what I understand, from her third album on, she didn't work with Babyface anymore. And she probably changed producers and, like, have different writers here and there. And I get, maybe she did it because, from the 2000s on, times change, right? Music listening habits, preferences have changed as well. They kind of, during that time, have gone more rap-ish. You could see even Mariah has gone more hip-hop at that time and things like that. So the music styles change. She still has some ballads here and there, R&B kind of ballads from her other albums that followed. But here's the problem I have with them. Obviously, from the 2000s on, she only had a few hits, and they were minor hits, at least to me. They were minor hits. They weren't anything close to anything that came out from her debut or from Secrets. Secondly, it's probably a combination of the music stylistically that wasn't all that great like her first two albums. And because of the way the music was tailored for her, it seems like her voice, her vocals were more stuck in the lower registers for some reason. I don't recall any like songs that like make her voice shine or have her go to the mid to high registers. It just more like just very low register. Now, she still sounds good no matter what register she's on, but it always seems to be stuck at first gear or the very low gear, She never ever showcased her like mid to highs enough like her first two albums. And I think that's probably the main reason why she just wasn't really like she stood out or was that good in the 2000s. I think it's just a combination of all that, the music, the style of music, and the way she's singing it in them is just not good. Her two songs that were I consider hits from the 2000s, and I actually like them too, but one of them was kind of like a rap song, more hip hop-ish. I don't have the names, but it's the one that she did with Pharrell produced one of them. Hit the Freeway, I think that's one of them. That's it's more of a it's not her typical R&B song, things like that. So anyway, I think a combination of that, and I don't know if being in bankruptcy after her second album and then things with the Oprah show, I don't know, contributed to the part of her doing music like that from the 2000s on. I have no clue. But I think with all that, it kind of just, to me, it cut her career short. Cut her career short being none of her albums or music, really, anything, followed, even hit singles, comes close or came close to any of her first two albums. And even her non-hit songs from her first two albums, I think were just still better than pretty much anything she produced in the 2000s on. I mean, that's to me, in my opinion. If she had some of her non-hit songs on her later years, they might have been more of a hit, I don't know. But just saying, that's to me the difference between her 90s and her 2000s. And I think that's why not a lot of people remember her or think of her as much. And that's why I think overlooked is more of the appropriate term. I think when people who know Toni would probably agree with me to a certain extent that, yeah, she's definitely got that voice, that diva sound, like, that top elite tier female vocals that you can compare with Mariah or Whitney. It's just that her output from a discography standpoint, both singles and albums, it was just never there. I mean, after the second album, Secrets, to me, she kind of just fell off. Whether it's changing directions or some personal, like, bankruptcy problems, things like that, she just never could put it together that came even close to touching her first two albums. And that's a shame, because her voice is just flat out, like I mentioned, angelic. It's just up there with those divas that I've mentioned in the beginning. And it's just a shame she just couldn't continue that success. It doesn't have to be at that level of her first two albums. I consider her first album, her R&B debut album, one of the best R&B debut albums of all time, let alone one of the best R&B albums of all time. That's how damn good that was. It's just, and I don't think it's trying to follow up something like that was the problem. Secrets was just as good, if not to some other people's eyes better, because of the variety. But after those first two, it just she never came close at all. I mean, it is a totally different era, 90s, 2000s, and it was a totally different output. Elite diva versus you know, kind of you know, overlooked, and rightfully so. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about Toni Braxton, and again, I really still consider her a top five diva, especially if you consider like the 90s. She would be on that list for sure. I don't know if you could think of anyone else that comes close from a voice perspective, along with the music to back it up. You know, people mention like Monica, Brandy, Mary J. Mary J is more from a music R&B standpoint. I don't think I would vocally. It's fine. I just don't consider her vocally on a tier of like a Mariah, a Whitney, or a Toni. But it's just perfectly fine, especially with the music she has. It's just fine. But anyway, that's my opinion, and I think that is why Toni doesn't just gets the credit for being a fantastic vocalist in the realm of a diva as much as she should, and it's a shame. But anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about. Let me know what you think. All right, thanks. Bye.